Hello people and welcome to a brand new episode of my webinar. Now today is very exciting because I'm streaming on Facebook as well as on YouTube Live, and I'm excited about being on YouTube as well. So if you're having trouble on Facebook, go and check it out on YouTube. Okay, so today's topic, let's just dive right into it. First and foremost, I wish you guys all the best over the new year. All the best. I hope 2023 becomes your year. It's going to be the year where big things happen for you. And remember, it's something I always say, big things don't just happen. We have to make it happen. So put in the effort, commit yourself. I mean, I read somewhere that it's unimaginable what you can achieve if just for 1 year you put your all into it. You don't half-ass it, you just put everything into it in terms of your learning, in terms of the work you put in terms of the effort. If you're thinking of starting a business, start immediately, 10x it, put in 10 times the effort, and you'll hopefully reap the rewards of this for the rest of your life. Amazing. So that's 2023. But let's look back at 2022. 2022 was a crazy year, and I've got some notes here on some of the exciting things that happened, or not so exciting, and I'm going to give you some of my own thoughts on it. So first and foremost, remote working. Now, you guys all know when COVID started, many companies, just out of necessity, just out of the need to survive, they went into remote working. They allowed employees to work remotely away from the office. It was exciting because for the first time, I think we saw that it wasn't really necessary for people to work from the office. I mean, I used to work at a company not so long ago, and my work was all over the country, and I traveled quite a bit, and yet I was required to be in the office all the time. What did I do in the office that I couldn't do anywhere else? Absolutely nothing. And in fact, it was counterproductive for me to be in the office. I should have been at the various different places where my team was. My team was distributed throughout the country. And so that was a big challenge. And I've always believed that there are many types of work that you don't have to be present at the office for. Of course, if you're working in sales in a retail store, there's no option. You have to be there, right? That's not something that there is an option. But for a lot of office work, for a lot of knowledge work, you can be anywhere in the world, and all you'll need is an internet connection. But anyways, come lockdowns, hard lockdowns, everybody went into remote working mode, and they made it work. That's the best part. Somehow or the other, whether it was Zoom or Teams or whatever, they actually made it work. And this created so many other things that, side effects, positive side effects. The one is people started working from home, or they started working remotely. There was a lot of properties that were bought off in smaller towns, in seaside villages. So we saw almost this miniature de-urbanization that took place. People moved away from the urban areas into smaller towns, which is great because we've got these cities that have become mega cities, and they are overpopulated, overcrowded. There's traffic. It's crazy. I mean, I used to live in Johannesburg, and I know how bad it can be. So the trouble with that kind of paradigm is that every day as an employee, you are spending 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on the road, and nobody cares. Nobody cares as long as you're at work on time and you leave on time. But nobody cares about the amount of productive time that goes just sitting on your butt in your car doing nothing. And that time could have been used for productivity, or at the very least, it could have been used just relaxing and spending quality time with your family. So it's a very unfair situation. So along comes remote work, and I thought, well, this is going to be the new norm. Everybody thought this was going to be the new norm. Unfortunately, come 2022, and companies just started recalling people back to the office. And I'm not even talking about the small names. I'm talking about the big names like Google and Apple and Tesla, and these are the trendsetters, and what trends they set, everybody else just follows. So we are seeing now the unfortunate reversal of the whole new paradigm into the old paradigm, and that's where I guess we're going to stagnate. Um, is there a chance for remote working to come back? I think only with some certain visionary companies like ITversity, right? We started this business as a remote working organization, and we are happy to continue remote working. We didn't start remote working during lockdowns. We started long before lockdown. It's embedded in the DNA of ITversity that we will allow remote working, and we will find a way to overcome the challenges. I mean, not as if there's no challenges in an office environment. So we will overcome the challenges, and we will remote work, and it's been working beautifully for us. So but we are a rare breed, right? There aren't many companies like us that do enable remote working, and there's so many. Unfortunately, people don't realize there's so many advantages to allowing remote working. You can get some of the best people to work for you because you don't need them to relocate. I mean, I've got staff and team members in Cape Town and Johannesburg and all over the country. Now imagine relocating all of those people, tearing them away from their homes and their families, their extended families, and bringing them into boring old Durban to work. Sorry if anybody is offended by that, but really Durban is not as exciting as it used to be. So unfortunately, that's the new norm. It happened with education also. We thought that, I personally thought that education is now going to evolve beyond the traditional classroom model, the 150-year-old classroom, first industrial revolution model, into something new and beautiful. Old habits die hard, right? It's hard to shed those old terrible habits. So, but then now we are at a stage where everything is just going back to what it was. So 2022 for me is the year that we saw the end of remote working. Okay, moving on. The other big thing that happened in 2022, the crypto crash, the cryptocurrency crash, the 3C, cryptocurrency crash. I think crypto is its own biggest enemy. First and foremost, I think it's a terrific technology. I mean, cryptocurrency and its underlying technology, the blockchain, these are amazing technologies. Now, I wrote about this years ago, I think about 3 years ago, when crypto was just up and coming. Not 3, I think it was about 4 years ago that I wrote about it. I wrote about the blockchain and how it's going to transform our world and my vision for it, especially cryptocurrency. I mean, the ability to deal with a currency that is not monitored by the system or by the man, the ability to do international trade openly. There's so many advantages of it, and the biggest advantage is supposed to be the security of cryptocurrency, right? Cryptocurrency, because it's built on the blockchain technology, it's supposed to be rock solid. It's supposed to be something that no one could defraud, no one could steal. It was like having a note, a dollar note or $100 note with your ID on it, in such a way that only you could transact with that money. So imagine you had $100 note, for example, and you had your ID number on it. You went to a store and they compared that with your ID number, and they says, well, okay, you are the legal owner of this note. Then you can use it. Otherwise, if your ID number differed, they would tell you you're not. So in a nutshell, that's how you can envision crypto working on the blockchain, because the blockchain keeps a record of the owners of that coin, and if somebody's trying to transact it without proper ownership, it should not have allowed. But unfortunately, crypto was racked with fraudulent schemes. I think if I recall, in 2022 alone, there were like over $1 billion worth of crypto theft. That's bad enough. And then there's the crashes that happened. I mean, if you look at the crypto, the Bitcoin is the big name in crypto, right? In early 2022, it was trading at what, like $68,000, and then right down to what, like under $16,000. Again, crypto seems to be its own worst enemy. That wild fluctuation, that crazy fluctuation, that volatility is not helping anyone. Because how are you supposed to take it as a serious investment? How are you supposed to make that a serious way of doing business when you don't know what it's going to be worth? Imagine running a business, a retail business on crypto entirely. I mean, if I was selling pencils, right? I don't know what this pencil is going to be worth tomorrow or in the next hour. I'm selling this for argument's sake, 1 Bitcoin. Now, one moment at 1 Bitcoin is worth $60,000, and next minute it's worth $16,000, and then it's worth $30,000. It's impossible. And I personally believe that crypto does not need that negative publicity. It's a technology that's emerging. It's a technology that has so much of promise. And if it continues to get this negative publicity, it's just going to go down, down, down. It's not going to be, it's not going to be internationally, generally acceptable. And we will all have lost out on a really, really good technology. Remember, the technologies that don't gain traction in the general population do not survive. So unfortunately, that's where we are with crypto. And then when we look at the whole debacle that happened with FTX, oh my God, Sam Bankman-Fried took so many people for a ride. Such a huge fraudulent scheme. It was really scary. It was depressing to see so many big names associated with that, and now suddenly it's all gone, and nobody even talks about the millions and millions and millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of innocent people's monies that were lost. Sadly, that is the situation. And again, it's crypto gets the flack for it because everybody blames crypto, but we don't see that it was not the technology that was at fault. Anyways, let's move on to the next item. Elon Musk in 2022. Boy, oh boy, I think Elon Musk stepped in something. He stepped in a pile of something, and he didn't expect to get into that. So first and foremost, his controversial takeover of Twitter, that was bad enough. Into Twitter, and he starts firing from the hips and literally firing people. He's fired 75% of the staff, and he got a lot of flack, and people asked him to step down. Look, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, I can tell you something. When you take over a business, you don't just go and start shaking things up. It doesn't make sense from a business perspective. I don't know if Twitter has been stabilized. There are conflicting reports. They say now it's stable, or it's still unstable. But you can't upset the culture of the company, and especially with a company like Twitter, because Twitter as an external culture, right? Twitter is a big part of pop culture. It's a big part of today's world. It's where so many things happen, so many good things happen. I mean, breaking news, a lot of times it happens on Twitter. People have an opportunity to express their opinions. You could be a truck driver and an astrophysicist and a philosopher sitting in one chat and discussing your perspectives. So it's a really critical and important part of our pop culture. And now along comes Elon and starts changing things willy-nilly. Whatever his intentions, I think he should have been a lot more strategic about it, and it wouldn't have caused as much of a shake-up, as much of a stir as it did. and it wouldn't have put the company into the level of risk that he did put it in. Although, having said that, here's my thoughts on Twitter. Twitter is just way too important to be owned by anyone. I think Twitter should be owned by a non-profit organization that has representatives from all over the world that are making decisions about the business itself. It's become too important as a tool for information, as a tool for affecting and influencing people's opinions. So should it be controlled by one man? Absolutely not, because no one can trust any single human being's intentions and agendas. So I think, in general, I'm not happy. I'm not a big user of Twitter, to be honest. I think I've been on Twitter like maybe 2 times in the last 3 months. But nonetheless, having said that, it makes me very uncomfortable that such an important tool is now owned and influenced by just one person. And that should make anybody a bit concerned, because Twitter has a lot more capabilities, if you ask me, than even Facebook and Instagram to influence people and to shift opinions. So that was Elon Musk and the Twitter debacle. And finally, Netflix. Now, Netflix is actually a case study. I think from a business perspective, it's a real case study. People should look at the rise of Netflix as a company, how long it took them, from where they started to where they are. And I think that in itself was remarkable. But last year, something crazy happened. First and foremost, they lost 1 million subscribers. Boom, just like that. For the first time in the history of Netflix streaming, they saw a knock, and not just a small knock, but a huge knock. 1 million subscribers just gone. What happened there? There's all kinds of speculations, right? The one speculation is the streaming wars, because now we've got Disney Plus and we've got Amazon Prime, and there's just too many things. There's Apple TV. There's just too many competitors. Netflix made hay while the sun shone. That was great when there was no competition, but now there's a hell of a lot of competition, and everybody is vying for that top spot. So I think it's partially attributed to that Netflix lost out, but it's also partly attributed to the announcements that they made, that they're going to be tightening up on password sharing. A lot of people are sharing passwords, so you get one password that's being shared by different homes, different families. So I think that might have caused people to sort of cancel their subscriptions. If we're not going to be able to share passwords, what's the point? But that alone tells us, sharing passwords is not a good thing. It's not ethical, it's not legal. But at the same time, Netflix had to consider that as part of their business model. And I think that's their strength, because towards the latter part of the year, they regained those followers, and they regained more followers than they lost. How so? Because rather than taking a hard stance to this whole issue, they decided, and this is what I think they did. They decided to put themselves into the shoes of their subscribers. They had empathy, right? And this is where in a lot of countries people are sharing. Why don't we just give them a free tier? Rather than losing out entirely on those subscribers, why don't we give them a free tier? So Netflix introduced that free tier in certain countries. I think more in the South American countries. I think they rolled it out there just to test it out, just based on the trends there. And so there was there's this free tier, but it's ad driven, right? I think it's fair. You're getting free content. Be prepared to watch the adverts. So they are generating ad revenue rather than generating zero revenue. So rather than losing out entirely on that client base, they're generating revenue through the adverts, which I think is a stroke of genius. Obviously, if you want to stop the adverts and if you want more content, then you're going to have to take out a subscription, which is great. I think that's the way to go. in terms of streaming. And I think what Netflix did with this, with the ad-supported tier, is they really put themselves in the lead, because it's going to be a scary strategy for the others to follow. And I think it's going to take time for them to follow. It's not going to be the easiest thing for them to do. So, well done to Netflix. And, but then that brings me down back to South Africa, right? We've got DSTV, which is satellite television. I mean, they released a streaming service also, the DSTV streaming, which I tried out personally, and I wasn't impressed. I absolutely wasn't impressed. The user interface was bad. I took out a family subscription only to check in my account that I've got a double subscription. How does that even happen? I'm an experienced internet user. I'm a web designer, for God's sake. I used to be. I'm a software engineer. How does a streaming service create two subscriptions of the same product for the same person? Because that's what happened to me. And then I had to phone them, sit in the queue for I don't know how long, and clarify this with them and say to them, guys, why is my amount owing double? They helped. They cancelled it, but it's a bad taste in my mouth already. And then when you look at the interface, the user interface, it's confusing. It's problematic. It's got a long way to go. I'd like to go to the head offices and advise them on what is a good user interface. Look at the simplicity of Netflix or Disney Plus and match that. You could have done so much better. But unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know how it is with local companies. I mean, I personally am very, I'm a very big supporter of smaller businesses. I would have loved to see them doing well, but they've been on a steady decline, and unfortunately, I think it's just business practice that got them there. Okay, so let's leave it at that. I've spoken enough. I'm going to see if you guys have any questions now. If you haven't asked a question, now's your chance. Put it in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Please put it in the comments. I'm looking forward to your questions and your comments. There's a lot being discussed here today, and I don't know. I'm curious to see what your thoughts and insights are on these items that we've discussed. Okay. Karabo says, definitely agree about the Twitter saga. He will be gatekeeping and what can and can't be shared. That's true. Unfortunately, that's true. And there's no way to avoid that, because he's now the sole owner of Twitter. Best thing can happen, there'll be a competitor to Twitter that comes out, and that becomes open and it becomes free for everyone. Look, I'm not saying that that we should control freedom, or we should allow just about any nonsense, because there's a lot of very, very unsavory, even illegal stuff on Twitter that needed to be removed, and I think I'm happy it was removed. But that's why I say, if Twitter was owned by some non-profit and it was governed by a think tank, a representative think tank of people who allow who basically censor the content, open-minded people, I think that would have been great. But unfortunately, not the case. Okay, so Sneh asks about ChatGPT. Oh, I was supposed to discuss that, but you know what? I've run out of time, and what I'd like to do is to make a completely separate episode about ChatGPT. Because that's something that's close to my heart, simply because I love AI as much as I'm intimidated by it, but more importantly, I'm excited about the applications of AI in business, in education, particularly in education. I know there's a lot of concern all over the place about ChatGPT. Will it take jobs away? Will it ruin education? And I've got some thoughts on that. I've got some very, very strong thoughts on that. But let's leave that for another episode, because I mean that's a whole whole episode in itself. I mean, last week I spoke on a radio station, a Cape Town radio station, about ChatGPT, and that conversation alone was about 40 minutes. So let's do justice to that, Sneh. Thanks for the question, but let's do justice to that one. So Yusuf Ismail asks the same question: how will ChatGPT affect us in the next year? Not so much in the next year, but over the next few years, we will see the effect of this technology. But I guess that's an excuse for you guys to come back in a future episode. Okay, let's see if there's any more comments. I'm looking for your comments here. Keep them coming, guys. We still got a couple more minutes. It's weird on Facebook. It says 20 comments, but I can only see 4. I simply, sometimes I just don't understand what goes on with this tech. Maybe some of the comments are filtered, I don't know. But I'm gonna check on YouTube if there's any comments. No comments at the moment on YouTube. Nothing on Facebook. Okay, guys, so what I'm going to do is let's wrap it up here and leave it at that. If you've got any questions, comments, you can join me. You can ask away in the comments. But also, I put out 2 videos every day on TikTok. Those are also shared on Instagram. But if you want the latest, it's on TikTok. I offer advice on business, mentorship on business. Follow me there. It's at Bilal Kads. I'm there now 3 weeks only, so I'm still new to that, still kind of finding my way. But I'd love to see you then. I'd love to field your questions. I'd love to hear your questions, especially questions like ChatGPT and how it will affect us in work and business. So you know my thing. I'm all about how can technology be used to improve our lives, whether it's at work, business, at home, education, wherever. So I'll catch you guys next week or on TikTok. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next week.